Ladies and gentlemen, why does failure hurt so deeply? Why does it stop some people cold while others rise from it stronger? Today, we're diving into a powerful truth that most people resist. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a part of it. This talk is going to shift the way you look at setbacks forever. There's a sacred rhythm to life, one that flows through everything we do, feel, and experience. Yet when we fall short, when we lose, when things don't go the way we imagine, we forget that rhythm. We assume the universe is against us. We forget that even the seed must crack open before the flower blooms. This message today isn't about motivation in the usual sense. It's not about pushing harder or doing more. It's about remembering. Remembering that every time you fell down, life was pointing you inward. Remembering that failure doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're becoming. So sit with this moment. Allow yourself to breathe in the wisdom of your past struggles, because the truth you've been avoiding is also the key to everything you desire. Failure is not the enemy. It is the teacher, the guide, the sacred whisper of the universe saying, not yet, but keep going. There is a moment, often quiet, when something doesn't work out the way we hoped. A dream collapses, a relationship ends, a door slams shut that we prayed would open. And in that space, between the noise of what went wrong and the silence of what is next, we are met with failure. Not the failure others see, but the one we feel. The one that shakes the foundation beneath our feet. The one that whispers, maybe you're not enough. And yet, what we don't realize in those raw, difficult moments is that failure is not the final destination. It is a sacred invitation to awaken. It is not the period at the end of our story, but the pause before we turn the page and find out who we really are. Failure is the beginning of awareness because it strips away the illusions we cling to. It shows us what we've been holding on to that no longer serves us. We live much of our lives building identities around success, around doing things right, around keeping up appearances. We attach ourselves to results and outcomes, believing that if we can just get it perfect, we will be worthy. But failure breaks that illusion. It tears the veil, and for a moment we see clearly. In that moment of failure, something extraordinary begins to happen. We start asking different questions. Not how do I win, but what am I meant to learn? Not how do I fix this, but who am I becoming through this? It is these questions that mark the beginning of true awareness. Questions that don't look outward for answers, but turn inward. Failure points us back to ourselves. It pulls us into reflection, into stillness, into a deeper truth that is so often buried beneath the noise of striving. There is no awakening without humility, and failure is the gateway to humility. It humbles the ego, the part of us that says, I know best. And when that ego falls silent, even just for a moment, the soul begins to speak. The soul doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't offer formulas or quick fixes. It offers presence, stillness, and a quiet knowing that says, this too is part of your journey. Consider this, a child learning to walk does not get frustrated when they fall. They simply get up and try again. To them, failure is not failure. It's feedback, it's movement, it's growth. But somewhere along the line, we forget this. We begin to equate failure with shame, with worthlessness, with limitation. We build walls of fear around trying new things because we've come to believe that falling means we're not good enough. But the truth is, falling means you're in motion. It means you're alive. It means you're reaching. And that's a beautiful place to be. In nature, nothing grows without resistance. Seeds break open in the dark soil before anything blooms. Caterpillars dissolve inside cocoons before they ever take flight. Forests burn so that new ecosystems can emerge. Failure in its essence is natural. It is embedded into the rhythm of all life. And when we resist it, we resist the very process that was meant to evolve us. So why does failure feel so personal? Because we take it personally. We internalize the outcome and make it a reflection of our value. But your worth is not tied to your wins or your losses. Your worth is not negotiable. It doesn't fluctuate based on performance. And failure, if you let it, will begin to show you that truth. It will ask you to surrender the lies you've believed about yourself and come back to the foundation of who you really are. And from that awareness, born not of theory but of lived experience, comes transformation. You begin to walk differently. You speak with more compassion. You listen more deeply. You make choices not out of fear, but out of wisdom. And that wisdom is the gift hidden inside the fall. It is not found in books or lectures. It is found in those quiet, gritty, tear-stained moments when you were forced to sit with your own vulnerability and discover that even there, especially there, you are worthy of love. Failure is not the enemy. It is the awakener. It is the awakener. It is the awakener. It is the awakener. It is the force that removes the mask you didn't know you were wearing. It is the spotlight that shows you not what you lost, but what you were always meant to find within yourself. And while it may arrive uninvited and feel like a storm, it clears the ground for something far more powerful to grow: awareness. Awareness of your truth. Awareness of your strength. Awareness of your sacred path, which was never meant to be perfect, but always meant to be real. There's a part of you that flinches at the idea of falling short. It worries, it hesitates, it calculates every move. That part is the ego. It thrives on validation. It feeds off recognition. It survives on the belief that you are only as good as your achievements. And so when failure enters the room, the ego panics. It says, what will they think of me now? What does this say about who I am? The ego doesn't want to grow. It wants to protect, and it does so by building illusions. Illusions of control, of status, of success, measured in external terms. It's not evil, but it is loud, and its loudest cries emerge when something goes wrong, when the job is lost, when the relationship breaks, when the vision collapses. The ego sees these moments as death, but what dies is not the self, it's the identity the ego created. Failure is a shattering experience, not because of what it takes from us, but because of what it exposes in us. It pulls apart the roles we've attached ourselves to. It unravels the stories we've told ourselves about how life should unfold. And in that unraveling, there's pain, not because failure is inherently painful, but because the ego resists the discomfort of uncertainty. The ego wants answers. The soul wants depth. The ego wants results. The soul wants revelation. When you fail, the ego says, you are less than. But the soul speaks in a softer voice. Now you are ready. Ready to grow, ready to listen, ready to evolve beyond what you've been taught to chase. The soul isn't afraid of loss because it understands that nothing real can be taken from you. It knows that who you truly are is not defined by wins or titles or applause. The soul seeks wholeness, not perfection. It doesn't care if the world sees you fail. It cares whether you see what the failure is trying to reveal. We're conditioned to believe that being seen as strong means never breaking. That success means always moving forward without detours or delays. But the soul grows most profoundly in the cracks. It finds light in the places we tried to hide. It transforms not when everything is polished, but when everything falls apart. It is in the surrender, not the striving, that growth begins. What many call failure is often just redirection. The job you didn't get, the door that didn't open, the plan that didn't work. Each of these moments are not random. They are invitations. Invitations to return to the essence of who you are, to ask yourself what truly matters, to separate what you do from who you are. The ego resists these questions because they threaten its narrative, but the soul embraces them because they deepen your experience of being alive. When you align with your soul, failure doesn't destroy you. It refines you. It strips away what is not essential. It clears space for what is authentic. You begin to realize that the pain wasn't punishment. It was preparation. You were being made ready for something that success alone could not teach you. Success is a beautiful teacher, but it's often silent. Failure, on the other hand, speaks clearly. It challenges. It confronts, and ultimately it clears the fog so you can see what you've been missing. Imagine for a moment if you could fail without judgment. If the fall didn't trigger shame, but rather curiosity. If instead of asking, why me, you ask, what is this here to teach me? That's the shift from ego to soul. That's when transformation begins. You begin to make peace with not knowing. You begin to find grace in the middle of uncertainty. You stop needing to prove and start choosing to grow. Every spiritual path is filled with stories of those who lost everything only to discover something far greater within themselves. The external crumble becomes the internal awakening. That's not coincidence, it's design. Life is always guiding us back to our center, even if it has to take away the things we used to lean on. And the more tightly the ego holds on, the more painful the letting go becomes. But when we release our grip, when we surrender the image, we discover that what remains is real, grounded, eternal. Failure, then, is not a defeat. It is a clearing, a sacred space where the false self falls silent and the true self begins to emerge. It is uncomfortable, yes, but it is also holy, because in the absence of ego's noise, the soul can finally speak. And what it speaks is not despair. It is depth, not condemnation, but compassion, not endings, but evolution. There are no accidents in a universe governed by divine intelligence. Every encounter, every delay, every heartbreak, none of it happens without purpose. And yet, when life closes a door or diverts us from a plan we held dearly, our first reaction is to resist. We cry out in frustration, not because we are weak, but because we forget that life doesn't revolve around our preferences. It revolves around our evolution. And often, that evolution is initiated through what we perceive as a setback. When things don't go as expected, we assume something is wrong. We question the timing. We doubt our choices. We wonder whether we've misread the signs. But what if the very thing we label as failure is a divine curriculum? What if that rejection, that delay, that collapse is not a mistake, but a lesson tailored to your soul's journey? Every setback is an assignment, not from the world, not from other people, but from the source of life itself. These assignments come disguised in ordinary disappointments, the missed opportunity, the business that didn't take off, the relationship that didn't work out, the illness that shook your stability. Each of these events carries a deeper message beneath the surface appearance. We're not taught to look beneath the surface. We're trained to evaluate life in terms of outcomes, pass or fail, win or lose, success or shame. But the soul doesn't speak in those terms. The soul speaks through experience. It speaks through silence, through resistance, through disruption. The soul speaks through the detours that break your rhythm just enough to slow you down and get you to listen. And when you do listen, truly listen, you begin to understand that life is not punishing you, it's teaching you. Every time you've been brought to your knees, there has been a message encoded in the pain. Sometimes the message is patience. Sometimes it's humility. Sometimes it's a call to surrender what you thought you wanted in order to receive what you truly need. These are spiritual assignments. They are not always easy, but they are always sacred. You are never given more than you are ready for. Even when you feel overwhelmed, even when it all feels unfair, the deeper truth is that every soul chooses its lessons. Before you arrived in this form, before your name, your story, your identity, you came into this world not just to succeed, but to grow. And growth requires challenge, not to punish, but to refine, not to diminish you, but to draw out the light that's been waiting inside of you all along. Setbacks are mirrors. They reflect the inner work we've been avoiding. When a relationship fails, it invites us to look at our patterns. When a career path stalls, it pushes us to reevaluate our alignment with purpose. When we lose something or someone important, it awakens us to the impermanence of life and the necessity of presence. These moments shake us not to break us, but to awaken us from the sleep of unconscious living. You might ask, why does it have to be so hard? And the answer, in part, is because ease does not always transform us. Comfort doesn't demand much from the soul, but adversity does. It strips away the mask. It dismantles the armor. It brings us face to face with the parts of ourselves we buried beneath busyness and performance. And in that confrontation, we find the invitation to return to something real. You begin to realize that you are not just the person who failed. You are not just the one who didn't make it, who lost something, who got it wrong. You are the one who is being shaped, molded, carved by grace in the form of discomfort. Life becomes your teacher and every struggle becomes part of the syllabus. You stop asking for things to get easier and start asking to become wiser. There's a deeper kind of strength that can only be developed in the dark. It's the strength of faith, the strength of patience, the strength of patience. The strength of knowing who you are even when the world seems to forget. That strength is born not in your triumphs, but in your trials. The setback becomes a setup for something far more meaningful than surface-level success. It becomes the threshold to transformation. And when you walk through that threshold with awareness, with openness, with humility, the assignment reveals itself. Not all at once, not in dramatic clarity, but piece by piece. A new insight here, a deeper compassion there, an unshakable peace in moments that used to unravel you. You begin to see that the thing you thought was in the way was actually the way. The obstacle becomes the path. The wound becomes the teacher. The setback becomes the assignment you didn't know your soul had signed up for, but now cannot imagine growing without. Success has been misunderstood for far too long. It has been measured by wealth, applause, recognition, and outcomes that are visible to others. We've been conditioned to believe that success means rising quickly, winning constantly, and never stumbling in public view. But real success, the kind that leaves a lasting mark not on your resume but on your soul, has very little to do with how you shine in the spotlight. It has everything to do with how you rise when no one is watching. The truth is, you will fall, not once, but many times. You will try things that don't work. You will trust people who don't stay. You will give your all to something that eventually breaks apart, and it will hurt. It will shake your confidence. It will test your belief in yourself. But that moment, that very moment when you are face down in the dust, is where your real journey begins. Not the journey of achieving something, but the journey of becoming someone. Falling is not a flaw in the process. It is the process. And what defines you is never the fall. It's the courage, the integrity, the grace, and the quiet decision to stand back up when every part of you wants to quit. There is a sacred kind of power in resilience, a strength that can't be learned from books or taught in classrooms. It is cultivated through experience, through setbacks, through the intimate knowledge of disappointment and the soul's relentless desire to keep going anyway. When you rise after falling, you rise with something new. Not just the memory of the pain, but the wisdom it left behind. You walk forward with a deeper sense of empathy, a softer heart, a stronger backbone. You understand what it means to suffer, and so you are more able to love. You understand what it means to lose, and so you value what you have. You understand what it means to be broken, and so you are no longer fooled by superficial strength. Success isn't about avoiding the fall. It's about becoming someone who can rise in a way that changes how you see yourself and how you walk through the world. It's easy to be confident when everything is going right. It's easy to speak about faith and positivity when doors are opening and opportunities are flowing. But real confidence, real faith, real presence, those are born in the moments when everything seems to have fallen apart, and yet you choose not to crumble. You choose to rise, not out of arrogance, but out of devotion to something bigger than your pain. You rise because you know that your journey is not over. You rise because your purpose hasn't expired just because you faced a detour. You rise because something inside you refuses to accept that your story ends in failure. That something is not your ego. That something is your soul remembering its strength. Rising, you begin to rewrite what success really means. You begin to see that success is quiet, it's personal, it's not found in comparisons or status, but in integrity, in growth, in healing. It's found in how you treat others when you're still hurting. It's found in how you show up after the applause is gone. It's found in how willing you are to keep your heart open, even after it's been broken. Some of the most beautiful souls have fallen the hardest. They've failed publicly. They've lost everything, but they carry something the world cannot measure. A radiance, a depth, a peace that comes only from walking through the fire and coming out purified, not bitter. They do not define themselves by the moments they were down, but by the strength with which they got back up. The people we admire most are rarely those who have lived without scars. They are those who have fallen, and in falling discovered something unshakable within themselves, something that no failure could take from them, something eternal. And that something becomes the compass by which they live, not seeking perfection, but seeking truth. You rise from failure. You are no longer performing for the world. You are living from your center. You become less concerned with how others see you and more concerned with how you see yourself. You measure success not in trophies, but in transformation, not in how fast you move, but in how true you remain. And the beauty of this kind of rising is that it leaves a legacy not of what you accomplished, but of who you became in the process. You were never meant to walk through life untouched by failure. It's not a punishment. It's a passage, a sacred invitation into the deeper layers of who you are meant to become. The world may praise only the victory, but your soul values the journey, the rising, the learning, the returning to truth. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be real, to fall, to feel, to face the parts of yourself you were once afraid to meet. And in doing so, to rise with a strength that cannot be shaken by circumstances or judged by appearance. Failure doesn't define you, it refines you. It calls you closer to the wisdom already living within you. And when you meet it not with fear, but with awareness, when you see it not as the end, but as the sacred beginning, it transforms into one of life's greatest teachers. So wherever you are on your journey, whether rising, falling, or standing still, remember, this is not a detour from your path. This is the path. And success isn't found in how many times you fall. It's found in how beautifully, how honestly, how soulfully you rise. Keep rising. Keep trusting. Because everything you're becoming is born from everything you've been willing to walk through.